May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. I am blessed this morning to be here in our house of worship, to hear the scriptures, to hear the beautiful music, the inspired choir, to be able to be prayerful, and to have the privilege to share with you a message on today's gospel. Today, I want to reflect on discipleship. As Jesus and his disciples journeyed towards Jerusalem, he teaches them much about what it means to follow him. In today's liturgy, we hear much about lessons on faith, servanthood, gratitude. But to set the stage, let's look briefly at the verses just before today's gospel reading. Jesus had been speaking with his disciples about sin and forgiveness. He told them to rebuke those who sinned, and if they repented, to forgive them, even if that same person sinned against them 7 times in one day. The response? Increase our faith. Forgiveness is not easy. And Jesus was calling them to consider a new way of thinking and living that could be deeply challenging. When the disciples asked for more faith, Jesus replied with probably more than they had expected. Have you ever asked for something or asked a question and received an answer or a response that went far beyond what you imagined you had wanted? Or even left you puzzled when the conversation was over? Sometimes we wish we hadn't requested or even asked the question. Some of you are smiling. I think you've been there just like I have. However, it's moments like that that make us stop and think deeply and even grow. To illustrate faith, Jesus pointed to the mustard seed, the tiniest seed that his listeners knew. He didn't dismiss their request, but pointed to this incredibly tiny seed and its great potential. The black mustard seed, common in Palestine, was tiny, yet it grew into a shrub reaching 15 feet tall. Now that's me stacked upon myself twice. I think that's pretty tall. But now back to Jesus' teaching. He likened their faith to this mustard seed, which could grow, and to a faith that could grow and give them confidence to say to that tree, be uprooted and planted into the sea, and the tree would obey. Wow, what a visual. I'm not sure I can explain that to you, or the commentaries I've read couldn't explain that choice of the comparison and the command to uproot and watch it fly into the sea to be planted. That takes a lot of faith, and what a striking image. And is that not the mystery of faith? It's the power that we have within us that goes beyond what we can see or even imagine. Faith can stretch us. It can stretch our beliefs beyond what we think possible. Over my life, I've had to muster up a lot of faith, excuse the pun, more than I thought I ever had. Like the disciples, I had to cry out, "Lord, increase my faith." When tragedy would strike, whether it was unexpected death, suicides in my family, and yes, that's plural, or the heartbreak of losing infants, and that's plural, I wondered how I'd carry on, not just for me, but for all of my family that was taught by this loss and touched. Yet with every tear, I discovered God walked with me. He walked with me to the other side. Each trial, instead of breaking me, continued to deepen my faith. Now, faith isn't the only part of what we heard today in the gospel. Jesus shifts his conversation from faith to our duty and our servanthood. If you remember or were here last week, Father Greg reminded us in his sermon, faith leaves us to live out our purpose. Faith leads us to live out our purpose. Purpose was found by the disciples in following Jesus and serving him daily. Discipleship is not just about what we believe. It's about how we serve and love others. The great commandment that Jesus brought to us, to love others. In Jesus' day, many people lived as servants. It was often out of necessity. There were more have-nots than haves in that economic system. The servants were carrying out tasks, not for praise, but it was their duty. It was how many of them provided for their families. Jesus asked, when a servant finishes their work, do you invite them to sit at the table with you? Or do you simply expect them to keep serving while you're eating and drinking because that's their role? His question challenges us to see beyond a status quo or a role for those who have less and are in service to others. Treating others not as servants, but as equals seems to be embedded within that teaching of Jesus to me. I think about those who bless me daily, the crew who comes and cares for my lawn. I have women that come to the house periodically to help me keep it clean. And that's just to mention a few of the people that help me through life's way. While I pay for much of this service, I'm always reminded to thank them, to encourage them, to brag on them, to honor them. Their service to me is more than work. It's a gift, and it's truly a blessing. What about our families? Do we pause to show gratitude to those that are closest to us, or do we take advantage of them? Do we take them for granted instead of pausing to give them that much needed gratitude for what they do for us just by being part of our family? And what about our church family here? Many of us stepped forward in the recent weeks when we were having our small group meetings to hear about the needs and the plans we have for the future, and have committed to serve and be part of the work that will lead this church into the future. When you think about the members of our church, everyone serves. We serve in different ways because we have different capacities and gifts to bring to the church. But the fact is, we are all equal under the eyes of God, and we all come together to share our talents, to be a blessing one to another. And to all of you, if you don't feel appreciated at times, please know that our gratitude is there. And please extend to those around you the gratitude for just being a part of this church family as we serve each other and we all sit at a common table together as we share the bread, whether it be of communion or in our fellowship hall for our many events. Each act of service, seen or unseen, I know there is much going on that I don't know about. It's unseen, but it's what makes us function as a church. And that matters to me. It matters to God, and it blesses all of us. You see, gratitude transforms our work into blessings, not just for those that are receiving, but for those that give. I started this message saying it would be a reflection on discipleship. Discipleship is not always easy. It wasn't easy for those first disciples to leave everything and to follow Jesus. And it isn't easy for us today as we balance our family, our work, our church. But Jesus gives us the gifts for the journey. He continues to guide us as we look at his teachings. His teachings today on thinking of forgiveness, faith, servanthood, and gratitude. They're guideposts. These are guideposts that strengthen us as we walk together in discipleship and face whatever comes our way in our daily life. So today I leave you with a question. How will you choose to live your life? Will you choose forgiveness? Because revenge and hate will drain your very soul. Will you choose a walk of faith? That walk of faith will sustain you through life's trials. Will you choose the mantle of servanthood and gratitude? For it will lighten your load and lift up others. May God bless our church as we walk together in faith, love, service, and gratitude one to another. Amen.